In continuation with this month's academic angst theme, I wanted to take a look at 2006 Five Girls. This is an independent film. It's a Canadian film, and oddly enough, it stars Ron Perlman, which to me was a shock because I thought to myself, I thought Ron Perlman was doing well. Not that I'm speaking ill of his career, but I'm just so used to seeing him in blockbusters that it's just kind of odd to see him in a random low budget film. So my first thought when seeing this was, who does he think he is? Bruce Campbell? Oh wait, Bruce Campbell has done one of these. The Woods. The only difference here is Ron Perlman actually gets a larger role. He's actually featured throughout the film. Not too much, but he does pop up here and there rather than being at the beginning of the film and then at the end of the film, which is what happened to Bruce Campbell in The Woods. So this film starts off with a young girl, Elizabeth, who is doing her Bible study. She's sitting in a classroom by herself, and Ron Perlman's character, Father Drake, walks in, checks on her, sees what she's doing, and happens to just rest his hand on her shoulder. And oddly enough, I always thought to myself, well, somebody's getting a bit cozy. And I mean, all girls school, what can you think? There's usually some element of sleaze in these films. So he gets called away, winds up talking to some other girl. Meanwhile, Elizabeth is sort of attacked by a demonic entity and vanishes. So the school shuts down for about 5 years, and it reopens as the St. Mark's Alternative Catholic School for Girls. And it's basically just an area to where you would say the troubled youth is sent. It isn't long before we realize that all of these girls that have been collected together have some sort of a special ability. One girl is telekinetic, another is able to pass through objects, not walls, but she can pass through filing cabinets, doors, chairs, tables, stuff like that. There's another girl who ironically happens to be a faithless faith healer. There's also a blind girl who happens to be somewhat of a clairvoyant, and the final girl, which is known as a conduit, is basically a magnet for spiritual activity. So basically, if she's around, ghosts and weird stuff start popping up. The headmistress, Miss Pierce, was actually a former student of the St. Mark's Catholic School. She is the one who reopened this school, and she recruited Father Drake to join her as a teacher in this school. She pretty much just found him in a bar. He had become somewhat of a drunkard ever since the previous incident 5 years ago. Considering this gathering of girls, it really isn't too long before weird things start happening. There's the ghost of Elizabeth, who does pop up on occasion, writes things on chalkboards. She also does the lead girl's homework. Alex pretty much translates the homework into Aramaic when it should have been Latin. So obviously Father Drake knows something's up, and he attempts to speak to Miss Pierce about this. She obviously just dismisses it as a schoolgirl prank. The girls are also forbidden from going up to the third floor, which is where Elizabeth vanished. So obviously they eventually make their way up there. They are sort of caught. Miss Pierce doesn't know exactly who it was and threatens the class. So Alex confesses to something that she didn't do, and we have a bit of a schoolsploitation scene. She's obviously bent over a desk and being beaten in the rear with a yardstick. So this is where we see sort of a girl-on-girl scene when she obviously leaves, and she's trying to recover from the beating, and the faith healer kind of grabs her tush and heals her. It's a different way of healing someone, I guess you could say, but if it works, it works. Eventually, one evening, the girls, while wandering around on the third floor, are sort of dragged into a pinnacle, which I think is ironic because one of the girls in the group, who claims to be Wiccan, calls the circle a pentagram when it's obviously not. A pentagram is just the star alone. So I thought that was a bit odd because she should have known better. She's also somewhat of a ditzy character because she doesn't really seem to be too much on the up and up on Wicca, which she claims is her belief system. Rather, Alex, the lead character, seems to know a bit more than her, and she's actually a devout Catholic, so I thought that was a bit ironic. So the girls are summoned into this pinnacle, and there's sort of a a bubbling CGI mess of blood that pops up and jumps from girl to girl. Eventually, one of them, I don't know if she falls unconscious or if she is just slightly injured, but she is obviously healed. She is fine. The next day, randomly, the girls, one by one, begin being possessed by this entity, which we learn his name is Legion. And there is also in this film once again, the tired symbology, the classroom, all of the girls sit in a circle, so it forms a 5-pointed star. I didn't think it was necessary, though, for the scene to sort of fade in and out of a pinnacle in order to make this obvious. If you've seen this type of film, you pretty much know what you're looking at. You don't need it spelled out for you. Their dormitory is also in the form of a 5-pointed star, and when Legion kills Father Drake, he is stabbed with crucifixes, which, big surprise, form a 5-pointed star. So I think it pops up just a little bit too much. It doesn't really take away too much from the story, but if you watch a great deal of these, then you pretty much just pick up on it and you think to yourself, well, show me something else. But I think that's the same problem with the Omen films. After a certain point, there were a lot of hidden crucifixes throughout the film series, and it was kind of fun at first pointing out where the cross is going to pop up, but after a while it's just like, boring, been there, done that. So that's pretty much the deal with this film. The film is well acted, very well produced, great lighting. The dialogue is a bit odd on occasion, just a bit hammy, but there are some very well written scenes as well, so it's definitely worth taking a look. And once Legion does come up onto the finale, so he's pretty much claimed the majority of the girls, Miss Pierce locks the girls into the school, and we discover that she is the person who has been summoning Legion. She's been chanting, and the whole deal here is that she's trying to exchange these 5 girls in return for her sister, Elizabeth. So apparently Legion wasn't able to possess Elizabeth because she was so devout and so pure that he was, I guess you would say, expelled from her body without an actual ritual being necessary. So which better type of girl rather than girls nobody wants? And I think what really ups the stake is that all 5 had some sort of a special ability in addition to the fact that they were virgins. So I think that really does increase the quality of the sacrifice, you would say. So towards the end, as Alex, the telekinetic girl, as she is about to be attacked, she actually forces Legion out of the healer's body, Mara. She forces the demon out and forces it into Miss Pierce, who was then stabbed with a crucifix. And obviously this isn't the end of the film. Elizabeth does come back, and there's sort of a minor surprise at the end, and I'm assuming this was done because Legion didn't get the 5th girl. He got Miss Pierce, who is a woman, and the deal was for girls. So apparently age makes a difference when you're making a deal. There is one survivor, and it's pretty open-ended as to what happens to Elizabeth, but those are pretty much my thoughts on the film, and I will talk to you later.